We're at a critical inflection point in America, and the moment cannot be more urgent. With Black history under attack and white supremacy emboldened, there is no better time to introduce this bill than during Black History Month, a time when we reflect on our history, our struggle, and our collective power. And I'll say, it is also not only about Black history, but it is about Black futures. More than 4 centuries ago, Africans were kidnapped, trafficked, and enslaved, forced to build this country under horrific brutality, an economy which we still benefit from today. Rice, sugar, tobacco, cotton. And even after the Civil War, emancipation, and the 13th Amendment, the legacy of slavery endured in other forms, codified in law to deny Black Americans freedom, opportunity, and dignity.
Oh, since we're on that history thing again, we kind of got to talk about it. She states that the impact of slavery, oh no, it did not end with emancipation, but was codified into laws and policies that, what does she say, created systemic racial disparities. She mentions housing and wealth and education and health care, criminal justice, all kinds of other things. And I thought that was so interesting. I said, because you know what? You are right. The part that she just, I don't know why she glimpses over this part of history is that, ma'am, that was done at the hands of Democrats. It was Democrats who were doing that. Democrats are, have been, and will always be the party of the Confederacy from 1860 to 1865. They have and will always be the party of Jim Crow from 1865 to 1965. And now they are the party of sexual deviancy, illiteracy, keeping these kids dumb and ignorant. They are the party of keeping you poor and dependent on the government. And now they are the party of globalism, open borders. We got to exploit a different people group now because the Blacks are onto us. The Blacks, right, are onto us, and they know that we just use them, right, for our own selfish gain and to enrich ourselves. So now they got to move the goalposts. She wants to talk about how slavery didn't end with the emancipation, and yet she conveniently leaves out that the very party that she represents right now is the party that was responsible for all of this, I'll say, state-sponsored subjugation, right? The party of the Confederacy, state-sponsored. Jim Crow, absolutely state-sponsored. And so I'm trying to understand, like, you mad at the wrong person. This is an in-house discussion. She should be doing this press conference at the DNC, and she should be having this discussion with the DNC to say, well, what are we going to do? What kind of fundraising efforts is the Democratic National Convention going to put in place so that we can be the first ones to fund an effort to right this wrong? But see, they'll never do that. They'll lie some more, say, oh, well, the party switched. It wasn't the Democrats. The Democrats have been the party of civil rights for over 200 years. How is that possible? How is it possible in 1825 that you was the party of civil rights when you were still fighting to maintain slavery? This country fought itself, blood shed, mono brother against brother, killing themselves over this issue of slavery. And they want to lie and imply that they have been the party of civil rights for over 200 years. Lies, I say.
Today, this brutality, these injustices, these horrors were not things just happened within the culture by osmosis. They were legislated. Today, with Donald Trump and Republicans waging their coordinated and at times unlawful assault on Black folks and Black history, we will not allow that history to be erased. We will not allow
Who's doing that? What laws are being placed on the books that are actually doing this assertion that she makes? I need her to flesh it out. Notice how I told you, Democrats would always make these inflammatory, provocative statements, but they never explain what they mean by that. And so I'm wondering if she is implying that because Donald Trump, through executive order, has said, we're not doing DEI. Okay, we have reached a point in this country where we can actually determine who the best person is for a job or a position or an academic spot based on merit, because we are equal and you are capable of competing based on merit. We're no longer going to employ reverse racism to correct a perceived injustice of racism. We're not doing that. We're not going to correct an injustice with more injustice. I wonder if that's what she means by, saying, Donald Trump and Elon Musk and all these other conservative leaders are working to erase Black history. First of all, why would you give somebody that kind of power? Donald Trump doesn't have the ability to erase my history. It's my history. Now, I find it interesting that you are actually the one that likes to reinvent and reimagine history, because you didn't mention the African slave trade and their complicit behavior in this whole situation of how we got here. But at the end of the day, none of this matters, because what this bill is trying to do, they're trying to document these injustices, and they're using it to provide a foundation for reparative justice. The problem is there is a serious moral and economic dilemma that's going to prevent them from being able to carry this out. So the first thing I wanted to do was notice how this bill, HR 40, all it is, it's a larger effort. They're trying to push back against DEI. And not just that, though. This bill is nothing more than a repackaging of what they've already done. They want to study it. They just want to spend more money, more time, and more resources studying how we can possibly make reparations possible. There is no substance behind this bill. These people, all they want to do is figure out a way to siphon more money from the American taxpayer for an alleged social justice cause that is not going to move the goalposts for Black Americans in this country one way or the other. Because until Black America takes a look within and says, I should be doing some basic fundamental things in order to have the upward mobility that other people groups in this country who are not going to have the luxury of some sort of reparative justice done. For example, getting married, staying married, having children in the confines of that marriage, graduating high school, right? Like if you can just do those three, I don't know if that was 3 or 4 basic things, you are well on your way to acquiring the American dream. If we look at Asian households and Indian households and you look at their rate of divorce, it is very, very low. And the reason why they're able in one generation to not just acquire wealth, but then acquire it to where it is generationally transferable is because of family. And if this reparations discussion does not include a conversation about the moral imperative of the Black family needing to be repaired, it is a conversation that is smoke and mirrors, and it is a waste of time, because our racial wealth gap, the racial wealth gap can be remedied and addressed very simply by having Black households together, not Black mamas and Black daddies live in separate households with babies out of wedlock. No, I'm talking a man and a woman in a bona fide state of matrimony, and then in the confines of that, bearing children, right? Bearing children and then working together to educate those children, to prepare those children for life outside of the home when they reach adulthood. And then those two working together, they acquire real estate, they acquire other assets, because remember, it's not these disjointed households all over the place. They are working it together. They are forbearing with one another. They are operating and recognizing that there is a duty and a responsibility and a generational loyalty that is counting on us making this work. So we got to figure it out. It includes our women not delaying marriage and motherhood in lieu of chasing the bag by themselves to now where they're competing with their own men, thinking they're better than their own men, and then refusing to hold traditional views of marriage and family. That's what's hurting us more than anything. This racial wealth gap with Black households, that is one reason why we are holding significantly less wealth than our white households. It's not this direct result of slavery that these people want to point to, or these discriminatory policies. You know why? Because the Black family, when we were intact, we were doing better, and we were inching our way out of poverty in one generation. But the moment that the welfare state came in and convinced our women that marriage was oppressive and that having children was just holding you back, what did you start to see? You started to see the breakdown of the family, our divorce rates go up, single motherhood shoots up, and government and welfare dependence became the conversation of the day. It was a phenomenon. No one had ever seen a people group function this way. And Patrick Moynihan is like, we got to do something about this. If we don't step in and do something, we're going to have it's already a crisis mode.